Long ago, in the remote deserts of the American Southwest and Mexico, the people spoke in hushed tones about the dangers that lurked in the night. Among the most feared creatures was the Lechuza, a vengeful owl woman with a twisted spirit. While the night sky and moonlit landscapes often brought peace, these tranquil scenes also hid dark secrets. Travelers, farmers, and those venturing out after dark were always warned to stay vigilant, for the shadows belonged to more than just the night. The Lechuza was no ordinary owl. Unlike the birds of prey that flew silently through the night, she had a sinister reputation. The people believed she watched from above, waiting for moments when humans were at their most vulnerable. Her presence was often sensed before it was seen. The rustle of wings overhead, the eerie stillness in the air, or a distant bone-chilling screech that set hearts racing. This is the story of the Lechuza, the race of monstrous owl women from Native American and Mexican folklore. The origins of the Lechuza are steeped in sorrow and rage, tied to the injustices experienced by women who were wronged in life. Long before these women became the monstrous owl women of legend, they were ordinary members of their communities, often wives, mothers, and daughters who had suffered deeply. In a time when accusations of witchcraft, infidelity, or disobedience could lead to brutal consequences, many women found themselves at the mercy of a harsh and unforgiving society. Betrayal by those they loved, husbands, lovers, or even their own kin, often led to false accusations or violent deaths. Some legends tell of women who were accused of practicing dark magic and witchcraft. These women were feared for their connection to the supernatural, and many were blamed for misfortunes like failing crops, illness, or death in the community. Others were victims of abuse, cast out by their husbands or families after being falsely accused of adultery or dishonoring their household. In both cases, these women met violent and unjust ends, often tortured or murdered by the very people they had once trusted. In their final moments, as their lives were brutally taken from them, these women called upon ancient powers, dark forces that had existed in the land long before humans walked upon it. Their anguish and desire for revenge were so potent that they refused to pass quietly into the afterlife. Instead, their souls became entangled with the spirit of the night, transforming into something far more sinister: the Lechuza. The transformation was gradual, fueled by the festering rage and sorrow they harbored in death. Their spirits merged with the owls, creatures already associated with the night, darkness, and death. Owls were seen as messengers between worlds, guiding spirits to the afterlife, but in this case, they became vessels for vengeance. The Lechuza were not mere spirits, but also witches and beings of immense supernatural power, cursed to roam the night, exacting revenge upon those who crossed their path. The appearance of the Lechuza is unlike any ordinary creature of the night. When she is fully transformed, her figure towers over those unfortunate enough to encounter her. Standing at the height taller than the average human, her body is covered in sleek dark feathers that shimmer in the faint light of the moon, giving her an ethereal and terrifying presence. Her wings, impossibly large, spread wide, sometimes over 10 feet in length, and they cast deep shadows as she glides through the night with deadly silence. Her movements are nearly imperceptible, making her presence all the more unnerving. But it is her face that strikes the deepest terror into the hearts of those who see her. It is a grotesque fusion of owl and human, with sharp, angular features that barely resemble the woman she once was. Her eyes are her most terrifying feature, large, glowing, and filled with a malevolent intelligence. They pierce through the darkness, locking onto her prey with an eerie focus. Her gaze alone can send a chill through the bravest of souls, as if she can see into the very hearts of those she hunts. The beak is sharp and jagged, a tool not just for tearing flesh, but for consuming the life force of her victims. Her talons, long and razor-sharp, are powerful enough to grasp and carry her victims into the air. She uses them not only for physical attacks, but also as a symbol of her dominance over her prey, a cruel reminder that no one is safe from her reach. Once those talons sink into flesh, escape becomes almost impossible. The Lechuza possesses an array of supernatural abilities that make her a fearsome opponent. Chief among them is her ability to shapeshift. During the day, she can take on the appearance of an ordinary woman, blending into the very society that wronged her. Though she may look human, there are always telltale signs of her true nature. Eyes that glint too brightly, a piercing stare that seems to cut through to a person's soul. Her human form allows her to move unnoticed, gathering information and learning the vulnerabilities of those she intends to target. Perhaps the most insidious of her powers is her ability to mimic human voices. With this ability, the Lechuza can replicate the sounds of an infant crying, the voice of a loved one in distress, or even the pleading tone of someone begging for help. This ability has lured countless victims into her clutches, believing they are rescuing a lost child or helping a friend in need. They venture into the dark only to find themselves at the mercy of the Lechuza. Additionally, the Lechuza is believed to possess control over the wind. She can summon sudden gusts that disorient her victims, making it difficult for them to escape or find their bearings. These winds can knock over trees, stir up dust storms, and cause otherwise calm waters to become tumultuous. Her mastery of the elements makes her a force of nature as much as a supernatural predator, capable of altering the environment to suit her needs during a hunt. The Lechuza's behavior is shaped by the sorrow and betrayal that led to her creation. At her core, she is driven by a relentless desire for revenge. Her transformation into a monstrous being did not strip her of her humanity entirely, but instead warped it, turning her pain into a sharp, focused fury. This fury governs her actions, shaping her into a cunning, calculating predator who revels in the torment of her victims. Her vengeance is not swift. It is drawn out, precise, and deliberate. The Lechuza's hunting methods are defined by her patience. Unlike ordinary predators who rely on instinct and hunger, the Lechuza hunts with intention. She carefully selects her targets, often choosing those who have wronged her in some way or those who remind her of the betrayal she suffered in life. Her presence is subtle at first, designed to instill a sense of unease in her prey. She might appear briefly in the distance, watching from a shadowy perch, or make soft, unsettling noises outside a victim's window. These small, seemingly insignificant occurrences gradually build into an overwhelming sense of dread, which she uses to weaken her victim's resolve. Her primary victims were men and drunks, and sometimes even newborn children. Once she begins her hunt, she shows no mercy. Villagers quickly learn to take precautions when the Lechuza is suspected to be nearby. Doors are bolted, windows are shuttered, and people avoid venturing out after dark. The mere presence of the Lechuza can paralyze a community with fear, knowing that once she selects a target, she will not stop until she has claimed her prize. The Lechuza strikes with terrifying speed. Her large talons dig deep into the flesh of her prey, often dragging them off into the night sky. Her attack is swift, and her powerful wings allow her to carry away even grown men. Her flight is silent, leaving no trace of her passage except for the sudden disappearance of the victim. Some say the last sound her victims hear is the soft flap of her wings, a chilling reminder that escape is impossible. But her vengeance is not limited to those who have wronged her personally. The Lechuza is an opportunistic hunter, attacking anyone who crosses her path during the night. Travelers, farmers, or those venturing into the desert after dark can easily become her next victim, regardless of whether they had any direct connection to her past life. The fear and suffering of her prey are her primary motivations, and she takes pleasure in drawing out their terror before making her final move. Despite the rage that fuels her, the Lechuza is far from reckless. She thrives on creating psychological torment, taking her time to watch her prey squirm. Her cruelty is reflected in her actions, mimicking the voices of loved ones, making strange noises to draw people closer and observing as they struggle to understand what is happening. It is as if she enjoys watching her victims slowly unravel before delivering the fatal blow. To the Lechuza, the hunt is not just about the kill. It is about the power she holds over life and death, and the helplessness of those who find themselves trapped in her web of fear. In some accounts, the Lechuza has been known to show a twisted sense of humor. She may toy with her prey, allowing them to believe they have escaped her grasp, only to reappear moments later to strike again. This playful cruelty only heightens the terror she inflicts, as her victims come to realize that they are dealing with a creature that enjoys their suffering. It is not enough for her to kill quickly. The Lechuza must make her victims feel the full weight of their powerlessness before ending their lives. Hey everyone, just a quick intermission here. I wanted to say thank you for watching this video. It really means a lot to me. Did you know that over 80% of you who are watching right now aren't subscribed to the channel? If you've enjoyed this content so far, it would be incredible if you could hit that subscribe button. It's a small gesture, but it really helps the channel grow and ensures that you won't miss any more of our fascinating stories we explore together. Also, if you're feeling generous, please give this video a thumbs up, leave a comment, and share with anyone else who may enjoy it. Your support really does make a difference and keeps the content coming. Thanks again, and let's get back to the story. Though the Lechuza is a master of stealth, her presence is often heralded by subtle yet unnerving signs. These warnings are crucial for survival in the communities where the Lechuza is said to roam, and learning to recognize them has become second nature to the people who live in these regions. For those who are familiar with her legend, the signs of her approach are unmistakable, though they may seem benign to the uninitiated. The most common sign of the Lechuza's presence is a sudden unnatural stillness in the air. Birds and animals, who are often the first to sense danger, fall silent. The usual sounds of the night, crickets chirping, the rustling of leaves, or the call of nocturnal creatures, abruptly cease, leaving behind a thick, suffocating quiet. This eerie silence often serves as a warning that the Lechuza is near, watching and waiting for the right moment to strike. Accompanying this silence is an unexpected gust of wind, one that swirls with no discernible source. While the desert is known for its shifting winds, the gusts that precede the Lechuza's arrival are different. They carry a strange, almost electric charge in the air, as if the very atmosphere is bracing itself for something malevolent. These winds can knock over small objects, slam doors, or blow out candles, creating an environment filled with unease. One of the most terrifying signs of the Lechuza's approach is her cry. Unlike the soft hoot of an ordinary owl, the Lechuza's call is sharp, piercing, and filled with malice. It is an unnatural sound that cuts through the silence of the night, freezing anyone who hears it in their tracks. To those who know the legend, hearing this cry at night is a harbinger of death or disaster. It is said that once her screech is heard, the Lechuza has already marked her target, and there is little time left to act. The Lechuza's ability to mimic human voices is also a deadly warning sign. People often report hearing the cry of a baby, the voice of a loved one, or a friend calling for help. These sounds are incredibly convincing, designed to prey on the emotions and instincts of those who hear them. However, those who are familiar with the Lechuza's tricks know better than to answer these calls. Stepping outside or investigating the source of the sound often leads to a direct encounter with the creature, and few survive such meetings. For all the fear she inspires, the Lechuza is not invincible. Over generations, villagers and communities have discovered certain weaknesses that can protect them from her, offering some hope in the face of such a terrifying force. These weaknesses have become part of the lore surrounding the Lechuza, and knowing them is essential for anyone living in her domain. The most widely known weakness of the Lechuza is salt. In many cultures, salt is considered a purifying substance, capable of repelling evil spirits and breaking dark magic. For the Lechuza, it is no different. Salt acts as a barrier, disrupting the creature's supernatural power and preventing her from entering a home or approaching a person who has been properly protected. The practice of scattering salt along doorways, windowsills, and even around one's bed is a common form of defense in regions where the Lechuza is feared. In some cases, people will carry small pouches of salt with them when traveling at night, hoping it will keep the creature at bay. Another well-known weakness of the Lechuza is her sensitivity to sound. Though she is a predator of the night, capable of moving with complete silence, she herself cannot stand loud, sudden noises. Gunshots, the ringing of church bells, or even the banging of pots and pans can disorient the Lechuza, causing her to flee in confusion. Villagers often keep firearms close at hand, knowing that even a single shot, whether it hits or not, can scare the creature away. Church bells are particularly effective, as they are believed to carry divine protection, their sound driving away evil spirits like the Lechuza. The most mysterious and dangerous of the Lechuza's weaknesses is her true name. According to legend, if someone knows the name of the woman who became the Lechuza, they can use it to break her power. Speaking her name aloud serves as a reminder of the humanity she once had, weakening the layers of magic and rage that have transformed her into a monster. In some versions of the story, calling out her true name can force the Lechuza to revert to her human form, breaking the curse that binds her. However, this knowledge is rare and difficult to obtain, as it requires knowing the full history of the woman who became the Lechuza, a task that is often impossible for those being hunted by her. Finally, fire is considered one of the most effective defenses against the Lechuza. Like many supernatural creatures, the Lechuza is vulnerable to the purifying power of flames. Fire can drive her back or even destroy her if wielded properly. Those who face the Lechuza in desperate circumstances will often light torches or bonfires, hoping the light and heat will keep her at bay. Some legends even speak of bullets blessed by a curandero, a local healer, which are said to have the power to kill the Lechuza outright. These bullets are rare and must be infused with sacred energy to penetrate the creature's magical defenses. Despite these rare victories, the Lechuza remained a force to be feared. For every story of her fall, there were countless others where she triumphed, leaving behind nothing but fear and devastation. Still, the stories of her downfall offered hope to those who lived in her shadow. They taught that even in the face of overwhelming terror, courage, knowledge, and faith could prevail. One of the most famous and harrowing stories involving the Lechuza comes from a man who was driving down an isolated desert road late one night. The setting was almost serene, with the moon hanging high in the sky, casting long, eerie shadows across the barren landscape. The silence was palpable, broken only by the occasional gust of wind that rustled through the desert scrub. The man, having traveled this road many times before, paid little attention to his surroundings, his mind occupied with thoughts of home. As he rounded a bend in the road, something caught his eye, a dark shape perched on a fence post just ahead. At first, he thought it was a large owl, perhaps drawn to the stillness of the night. But as he approached, the figure seemed too large, too unnatural. The glow of his headlights illuminated the creature, revealing a form far more terrifying than he could have imagined. What he had mistaken for an owl was, in fact, the Lechuza. Her glowing eyes locked onto him, unblinking, filled with malice. Panic gripped him. His instincts screamed at him to flee, and he pressed down on the gas, speeding past the creature as quickly as he could. But the Lechuza was not so easily outrun. As soon as he passed, she took flight, her enormous wings spreading wide and casting an unnatural shadow over the desert landscape. Her movements were silent, but the man could feel her presence just above him. An oppressive weight that seemed to press down on him, making it hard to breathe. No matter how fast he drove, the Lechuza followed, her glowing eyes never leaving him. Her wings flapped steadily, effortlessly keeping pace with the car as if mocking his attempt to escape. The man's heart pounded in his chest, his hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly that his knuckles turned white. He knew the stories, knew that the Lechuza would not stop until she had claimed her prey. Desperate, the man veered off the road, racing toward his home. When he finally reached his driveway, he slammed on the brakes and bolted out of the car, rushing inside and locking the door behind him. He leaned against the door, his chest heaving with exertion, but the terror was far from over. He could hear the faint sound of wings flapping outside, followed by the scrape of talons on the roof. The Lechuza had not given up. All night, the man sat in his home gripping a rifle, his eyes darting toward every window, every door, expecting the creature to break through at any moment. The scraping continued for hours, punctuated by the soft fluttering of wings just outside. His fear mounted with each passing minute, knowing that the Lechuza could strike at any moment. It wasn't until the first light of dawn that the sounds finally stopped. The man waited, tense and exhausted, until he was certain that the creature had gone. Only then did he venture outside, and what he found confirmed his worst fears. Large claw marks were scratched into the roof of his car, deep grooves left behind by the Lechuza's talons. Though the creature was gone, the evidence of her presence was undeniable. Shaken but alive, the man told his story to anyone who would listen. His encounter with the Lechuza became a cautionary tale, spreading quickly through the community. People were reminded of the dangers that lurked in the night, and the legend of the Lechuza grew stronger. From that day forward, the man never traveled alone at night, and his story served as a warning to others. The creatures of legend were very real and far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. Even though many tales of the Lechuza spoke of her defeat, the legacy of these monstrous owl women endured for generations. In the remote desert towns of the American Southwest and northern Mexico, her legend persisted, passed down through stories told around campfires and whispered warnings shared among families. To this day, the Lechuza remains one of the most feared and well-known figures in local folklore, her presence casting a long shadow over the land. For those who still believe in the old stories, the Lechuza is more than just a legend. She is a warning, a reminder that even in death, there are forces that seek justice, no matter how long it takes, and no matter how many suffer in the process. The legacy of the Lechuza endures in whispers, in the screech of an owl at night, and in the uneasy feeling that sometimes the past refuses to stay buried.